Story time about how my sister was hooking up with my boyfriend. Little background information, I was 15 and in 10th grade, and I have never had a boyfriend before. Any guy that I was sort of talking to, we never made it out of the talking stage. But fast forward, I met this one guy who we're gonna call Jake, and because of how tragic my love life was, I didn't expect us to get into a relationship, but he ended up asking me to be his girlfriend. So of course I said yes. I was super excited that I had a boyfriend, and then he met my family. And my older sister and I were like super close, so I told her all about him, and she just couldn't wait to meet him. So whenever he met my sister, she was being super talkative to him, and I thought it was just because she was excited to meet him, like for part 2. Part 2 about how I found out my sister was hooking up with my boyfriend. So like I said, he came over, he met my sister, they got along super well. Fast forward, my parents decided to have a family gathering, and my sister was like begging me to invite my boyfriend, which I didn't plan on inviting him at all because my family is super annoying and would make a big deal about the fact that this is my first boyfriend. She was like, okay, but if you guys are seriously in a relationship, I think that he should meet your family. So I ended up inviting him. So my mom called me to the kitchen to help pass out drinks, which was super annoying because my sister was literally doing nothing. So after I'm done with that, I'm looking for my boyfriend and he's nowhere to be found. So I go upstairs, and as I'm about to walk up the stairs, both of them come down. And when I asked what was wrong, like why they were upstairs together, she was like, oh, I was showing him to the bathroom, which I felt super weird about, but because she was my sister, I let it go because you're supposed to trust your family. Part 3 about how my sister got with my boyfriend. So things started to get really sus because every time that he would come over, they would always find a way to be alone with each other. So fast forward, my sister and I are supposed to go to one of her friends' parties. The whole time though, she kept asking me if I would invite my boyfriend. And no offense, I love my boyfriend, but I need space away from him sometimes. And not to mention, I felt like I was dragging him around like a dog because she was the one who would want me to invite him everywhere. Fast forward, I end up inviting him to the party. My sister gets super drunk, really sick, and my boyfriend offers to take her to the bathroom. And I was like, excuse me, I'm her sister. I can do that. Thank you very much. So after I say that, my sister looks at me and she was like, I would appreciate it if you would just stop being like this because I feel super sick right now. Like, okay, play the victim. Anyway, so I go to check on them in the bathroom. They're not in there. And one of the bedroom doors was open. So when I went in there, I saw them. I asked her how long this had been going on, and she said it was since the first time that they met. And now I'm ignoring my sister until she goes to college.
Okay, so I went through a phase in my life where I was obsessed with vampires, and I really wanted to be a vampire. I was like 11, maybe 12. I was so determined to be a vampire, to become a vampire, that I went to some lengths to achieve that goal. I didn't achieve it, but I went to some lengths to try. I would like pretend that my teeth were like hurting because they were growing. Stupid. Also pretend that like I had super hearing. I would like, because I can move my ears, and I would like hear that. I had enough of pretending. Okay, I wanted the real deal. I wanted to be a vampire. Okay, what did I do? I did what everybody does. I went to Google. Automatically, the first thing that popped up was you have to be bitten by a vampire to become a vampire. I didn't know no vampires. I don't know where to look to find vampires, so that was automatically not an option. Luckily, there's many options because Google always gives you so many. My next option was magical spells to become a vampire. I found like so many spells to become a vampire, and I didn't know which one was gonna work, so I said all of them. I'm a Christian, right? So after I said the spells, I felt so guilty, and I felt like I was gonna go to hell. So I started crying. I stayed up all night praying for forgiveness. That's it, thank you.
My sister told me she only hangs out with me because I'm pretty. Let me know if this makes sense to you by the end. From the time I was super little, I mean like 3, 4, 5, 6 type little, she always said, oh my God, you're going to be so pretty when you get older. You're going to get so many guys. Probably more than me. And at that age, it honestly didn't mean anything until I got older. For my 16th birthday, she takes me into her room and she dumps out this huge box of shoes, high heels, sneakers, boots that she used to wear when she was my age. Then she gives me all of this makeup. Then she goes, happy birthday, kid. Boy, you're so lucky that you're so pretty. Because if you weren't, we probably wouldn't even be close. Anyways, take as much as you like. And before she could finish, I'm like, wait a minute. So my looks has something to do with how close we are? And she goes, think about it this way. Would you eat any food that looks nasty? Would you talk to a guy or date him if you weren't attracted to him? We all eat with our eyes first, even in family. It doesn't just apply to the dating world. So the more appealing something seems to look, the more closer people are going to get to it. Who agrees with her?
Am I wrong for not inviting my sister to my wedding? I, 27 female, have been married to my husband Jay for over 10 years. We got married 6 years ago, but only did it through the court and we never had a wedding. We always said later, but timing was not on our side. Well, it finally is. We decided to have our wedding ceremony and reception later this year and invite our close friends and family. We were doing our guest list and decided that my older sister would not be invited. She has been a toxic person in my life since I can remember. When I started dating Jay, she used to tell him that he could do so much better than me. I've never been someone that wears a lot of makeup, and Jay has always known this. She used to tell me that he was going to leave me because I didn't take care of myself. I suffer from an eating disorder and have been impatient. She told Jay that I was crazy and shouldn't be dealing with me and should just leave me. When I was at said impatient, she tried to use me to get an excuse for her job so she wouldn't have to do something she didn't want to, all under the pretense of helping with our girls. This was my second day there. When I told her I couldn't, she called me selfish and why couldn't I do this for her, and didn't reach out for the 2 months I was in there, and just so much more. As the years have gone by, Jay has stood up for me time and time again and doesn't let her run over me. This is something I've had trouble with. She hates this. She mentioned one time that he shouldn't get involved in sister matters. We had a traumatic childhood, so I felt like we just had to be close. I think it's part of why I've had such a hard time cutting her off. Anyways, last Thanksgiving we got into a fight. Jay and I tried to have a civilized conversation and put all differences aside and move forward. It did not go well and she played victim at all times. Jay and I knew we tried. She brushed it under the rug and a few days later was back to normal. After that, a month later, Jay and I had to leave for 2 months for a training and I stayed alone with my 2 girls. She made all these promises of coming to visit us and keep us company, and so did her husband. They ended up coming to our state and then kept making up excuses as to why they couldn't come. She didn't talk to me until she was back to the state she lives in. I was annoyed because they also promised my 6-year-old and then just left her hanging. After they went back, she texted twice and I briefly answered once since I was annoyed and honestly didn't want to get into a fight. A week and a half after the text, the girls and I got into a car accident. Car was totaled and it wasn't pretty. Thankfully, the girls had minor injuries. She never reached out, never cared. My mom and younger sister came to help and called her in FaceTime and she gave me an attitude. It was like something clicked and I was just done. She's a negative and toxic person for me, blood related or not. Obviously, I told my family she will not be invited and they know everything, but they still want me to be the bigger person because she's your sister no matter what, and just be the bigger person again. I stood my ground. We had the wedding this weekend and it was everything we could have wished for and more. We were so happy to finally have this day and share it with our loved ones. These past few months I've been in therapy to deal with just different things, and obviously the topic of my family has come up. My sister and I actually had a talk about a month and a half ago, just her and I. She apologized for a lot of things which she has never done before, so I appreciated that. We also realized that this was the first time we actually sat down to talk, just her and I. No one else involved. My mom would usually want to be there and then meddle, then send messages back and forth, but it was never what me and my sister said. We realized my mom had a lot to do with our relationship and how it went. She knew some of her actions were toxic, and that's when she apologized about it and we had a genuine talk about it. Afterwards, we talked at least weekly and you could feel the difference now that we had talked about everything. She ended up coming to the wedding and there was no drama at all. We really had the best time and everyone got along perfectly.